DeAndre Hopkins has a no-trade clause.
Arizona Cardinals plan to try and trade all-pro receiver DeAndre Hopkins this offseason. There's 2 years and $34 million left on his contract and is likely to seek a new deal.
So yesterday we brought you guys a huge story on Cliff Kingsbury officially being fired as the Arizona Cardinals head coach. And it seems like Cardinals aren't just stopping there. It seems like they're going to take it a step further. We have multiple credible sources saying that they are actually looking to trade one of their best players. Before we get to the content, recently YouTube has been age restricting my documentaries. Videos like CTE caused his death, a Junior Seau story, and the biggest tragedy in NFL history no longer get recommended to people under the age of 21. So I posted it onto Patreon. If you guys want to go and join my Patreon account, you can get access to all these documentaries that I will be posting there as well. And now that we get all that out of the way, work! A lot of you guys have been hitting me up in the DMs telling me how much money you've been making on Prize Picks. A huge shout out to my subscriber Spencer Sims, who's made $7,000 off of his picks over the past 2 weeks. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I play Prize Picks religiously and I post my picks to my story each and every day. And if you want to try out Prize Picks right now, when you use my promo code Mikerophone, you'll get up to a $100 deposit match on your first deposit. And if you get any big hits on Prize Picks, make sure you DM them to me on Instagram so I could feature you in future promos. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mike check 1212. What's going on, everybody? Yesterday we talked about how Cliff Kingsbury officially got fired by the Arizona Cardinals. One of the most popular takes that I got in my comment section is that Kyler Murray was the reason why Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim both got fired, which is kind of wild when you consider the fact that Cliff Kingsbury was singing Kyler Murray's praises during the pre-draft process.
Kyler is, he's a freak, man. Purdy's a really good young player and he's going to be a tremendous player, but Kyler is a freak, and I've followed him since he was a sophomore. Just think the world of him and what he can do on a football field, and I've never seen one better in high school, and he's starting to show it now at the college level. I don't have enough good things to say about him. He's phenomenal. I've never seen him have a poor outing, not one, which at quarterbacks it's impossible to do, but he's done it, and I don't know. I'd take him with the first pick of the draft if I could. I know he's signed up to play baseball, but he is a dominant football player, and I would take him with the first pick.
So the question became, what's next for the Arizona Cardinals? And since we're bringing you a Cardinals-related topic today, and we're going to get to the fact that the Cardinals are moving on from DeAndre Hopkins in just a sec, we got an update on how they're going about their head coaching search. First things first is Kyler Murray will have input on the next Arizona Cardinals head coaching hire, which I guess makes a lot of sense considering the fact that they just signed this man to a top 4 quarterback contract, which ironically, the top 4 highest paid QBs all didn't make it to the NFL playoffs this year. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and Kyler Murray all didn't make it to the playoffs, but I guess we could give Deshaun Watson a pass because he was suspended all year. So that's besides the point. The latest rumor in regards to the Cardinals is that Sean Payton might be linked to the Cardinals, which is kind of cool considering how there's a bunch of clips popping up on social media of Sean Payton talking about the Cardinals.
The audience at home, what is your current contract status with the Saints?
2 years left on a contract with New Orleans, so 23 this upcoming year and 24. Any team that would want to inquire or speak with me can do so. They just need permission from the Saints. So I think ownership and the functionality of the front office is most important.
Line when you have a Kyler that does stuff, Sean, that nobody in the world can do.
What would I like to see? I'd love to see him have a better running game under center. I'd love to see him hand the ball off to another really good player.
Now, what about Cliff Kingsbury? What is his fate going to be? Well, Cliff Kingsbury started his professional career as a player backing up Tom Brady as a quarterback on the New England Patriots. And apparently, the New England Patriots have done their research on fired Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury. Now, I don't know how familiar Cliff Kingsbury is with Bill Belichick. One would assume that they recognize one another, but you have to bear in mind, Cliff Kingsbury was like a third string quarterback during his time with the New England Patriots. So I don't know how much personal time he got with Bill Belichick, but there should be some sort of familiarity there. Now, the reason why this is so interesting is a few weeks ago, as a promotion for Hard Knocks in season with the Arizona Cardinals, HBO Max Max dropped this trailer.
Glad we only have to play you every 4 years, man.
I love you, man.
You too. You just half the season, still going to lead the league in receiving.
You know I do my job, man.
Yeah.
And this scenario might become a reality sooner rather than later because according to Jordan Schultz, the Arizona Cardinals are planning to trade DeAndre Hopkins. So check this out. Sources: Arizona Cardinals plan to try and trade all-pro wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins this offseason. D-Hop has 2 years and $34.36 million left on his contract and is likely to seek a new deal. Owner Michael Bidwell plans to express this to general manager candidates. If I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan, there's a part of me that is kind of panicking, but at the same time, if you ask me, this is probably one of the best times to move on from DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, don't get me wrong, he could have a couple more years left in the tank, and when he's been on the field this year, he's been an absolute stud. But he's 30 years old, and 2 years from now, he's probably going to want another contract extension, and you could probably flip him for significantly more compensation this offseason, as opposed to maybe next offseason when he will probably demand a trade, or it'll become more obvious that he's going to move on from the Arizona Cardinals. I don't want to say the Cardinals are looking to rebuild right now, but there's definitely some retooling that is going to have to occur. And ironically, what I think might happen here is DeAndre Hopkins might get traded to another team for the same reason he was brought to the Cardinals to begin with. If you remember, the Arizona Cardinals originally traded for DeAndre Hopkins in order to assist Kyler Murray's development. And it's a tried and true formula. We've seen it happen multiple times over the span of the past couple of years. I mean, this past offseason alone, the Philadelphia Eagles traded for AJ Brown to assist in Jalen Hurts' development. The Miami Dolphins traded for Tyreek Hill to assist in Tua's development. A couple years before that, the Dallas Cowboys traded for Amari Cooper to help with Dak Prescott's development. Typically, these wide receivers will stay on their new teams until the quarterback gets paid a tremendous sum of money. That's when things get very complicated. At that point, you're going to have to cut costs, and at that point, you're going to be depending on the quarterback to be able to make plays without a superstar at the wide receiver position. So with that being said, as cute as I think speculation surrounding DeAndre Hopkins to the Cowboys would be, I don't really think that's likely to happen. I feel like the most likely teams that D-Hop could end up on are one, the Chicago Bears. They really need a true wide receiver one, and they're picking at the top of the NFL draft. The NFL draft isn't necessarily as deep with wide receiver talent as they have been in the past couple years. Don't get me wrong, there's good wide receivers, but it's not as loaded as it was a year ago and a couple years prior and in 2019. Now in 2019, the NFL draft's wide receiver class wasn't that hyped up either, and it turned out to be a really good wide receiver class. So I can see the Chicago Bears trying to trade for DeAndre Hopkins, especially if they're able to trade down from the #1 overall pick and get a bunch of assets in return. Another team that is obviously going to be at the top of this list is going to be the New England Patriots. Patriots really could use a player of DeAndre Hopkins' caliber to really aid in Mac Jones' development. Mac Jones has shown flashes of greatness in his rookie season. He did take a step back in his sophomore season, but dude, he had Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator. I'm gonna give him a pass for that. It's obvious that both DeAndre Hopkins and Bill Belichick have a significant amount of respect for one another, so a potential trade makes sense here. Now, another team that could make such a trade would be also the New York Giants. Daniel Jones could really use a wide receiver one. The Giants definitely seem to have a lot of faith in him, and they're planning on signing him to a contract extension. I would say those are the three teams that make the most sense to trade for D-Hop. Now, it's important to note that the Cardinals can't just go ahead and trade DeAndre Hopkins to whatever team they wish, because at the same time, he secured a no-trade clause in his last contract extension and would have to approve of a final destination if a deal gets done. Expect DeAndre Hopkins to be one of the most sought-after players this offseason. At the end of the day, man, it seems like the Cardinals definitely are going to take a couple steps back this upcoming offseason. They're already fairly loaded at the wide receiver position. They have DeAndre Hopkins, they have Hollywood Brown, they have Rondale Moore, Robbie Anderson, AJ Green, although AJ Green is a free agent and is probably going to retire. And of course, none of those players are even near the caliber that DeAndre Hopkins are. So maybe they're confident in their wide receiver receiver room without D-Hop, but at the very minimum, I think the assets they would get in return for DeAndre Hopkins would be worth it. And at the end of the day, this is a casualty of Kyler Murray's gigantic contract. Once that cap hit settles in, the Cardinals are going to have to become slightly weaker. And the question is it going to be worth it or not? Well, you'll have to interpret that for yourselves. Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think the Cardinals made the right play extending Kyler Murray for the amount that they did? And where do you think D-Hop is likely to go to? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.